When it comes to actually playing the guitar, there are two very often overlooked aspects. The first is the body posture while seated, and the second is the position of the fretting hand. So as you can see, I'm sitting down in a chair, and I have the guitar on my right thigh, and the guitar is not elevated in any way. My feet are both flat on the ground. And this is often what a lot of guitar players use when they play, when they're sitting. And the problem with this is it forces me to do two things. One is for support of my left hand, it tends to have me force my thumb to hook over the neck. Now the other problem with it is that it's also, in order to bring myself closer, because the guitar is so far away from me, I end up having to hunch over like this. And that maybe for 5 minutes is okay, but if you're going to be playing for more than half an hour, it's really going to do a number on your back. Because ideally you want to be able to keep your back straight when you're playing. Now, what you need to do is find a way of elevating the guitar, and that's going to give your left hand some support that it needs, because right now it's completely, my forearm is parallel, almost parallel to the floor. And what I need is, in order for myself not to have to feel as though I need to hook my thumb, I need to actually put a bend in my elbow. And that way the elbow is kind of putting some pressure on my torso. And here I actually have much more stability and support for my arm. Now, as you can see, the neck is far lower than where my hand is right now. And this is a general guideline. You know, maybe if there's an angle, it's probably about 40 or 45 degrees of a bend in my elbow. But this is, again, just a general guideline, and everyone is going to be a little bit different. So just keep that in mind. You're going to have to feel your way through it and figure out what feels best for you. But going back to the guitar being too low, I need to find something to elevate it. So I've got a couple different ways of doing this. The first is I could always cross my right leg over my left. And this, you see a lot of flamenco players play this way. This immediately raises the guitar. And as you can see, it's almost exactly where I would want it. And this is a good, comfortable position for myself. For some people, this is not going to be a comfortable position at all. So what you can do in lieu of crossing your leg is using a footstool. This is a basic guitar footstool that you can buy at any music store. And it's adjustable. It's sometimes got 3 or 5 settings, so you can find the most comfortable height. And by putting that under my right foot, I'm able to elevate the guitar again to an appropriate level for me, where I don't have to hunch over the guitar, and I also get a nice bend in my elbow, so I have support, and I'm not predisposed to having to hook my thumb over. Now, other people might not like the idea of using a footstool either, and perhaps someone wants to keep both feet on the ground when they're seated. Now, what you can also do is go out, and if you don't already have one, is buy a guitar strap. And what you can do is just put the guitar strap on, and you'll have to adjust it so the height of it brings the guitar, when seated, to that appropriate height. Again, here's my hand, and here's the plane of the neck. I don't have to bend over to play it because it's elevated the guitar. And this is how I generally like to sit, myself, personally speaking. Now, another consideration is some players like to have, if you're right-handed, and you have your left hand fretting and your right hand strumming, some players like to also have the guitar where it's more in the center or even further to the left of them. So that's also something that you may want to experiment with, is the actual position of the guitar. Now that we've covered the sitting position of the guitar, I want to focus our attention on the left hand. Now, this correlates to holding the guitar, of course, and many guitar players tend to have the same sort of standard position where their thumb is either extremely high or it's literally hooking over the neck of the guitar. And there are two major drawbacks to this. The first is that when it's hooked over, the ability to span from your index finger to your pinky is severely restricted. As you can see here, I can barely make the 5th fret from my first finger. Now if I draw my thumb back, I can actually span a couple more frets. So right now it's the 1st fret to the 7th fret. I would never be able to do that with the thumb over. And you can try this yourself and just experience the difference. Now, the other drawback is that the hooking of the thumb also generally keeps your fingers a little bit more flat. So when you're fretting the notes, you tend to use the pad of your finger as opposed to the tip of your finger, and you want to be more around the tip than the pad for the most part, generally speaking. So hooking the thumb is going to prevent or make that a lot more difficult. So by drawing the thumb back once again, it's a lot easier for me to arch my fingers and to have the tips pressing down on the strings. So these are a couple things that you may want to consider and play around with. Again, they're very much general guidelines, and you're going to have to experience for yourself what the ideal position is. But this is just pretty much food for thought, because again, if the guitar is in a very comfortable position, then it's going to be a lot easier and more enjoyable to play it.